I keep hearing this phrase everywhere. Change your thinking, change your life. Every author, every motivational and personal development speaker seem to say it all the time. So I thought, why not actually give it a try for 30 days and see what happens? So the idea is simple but very powerful. Our lives are directly connected to the quality of our thoughts. And if we want to create a better life, we have to feed our minds with better and high quality thoughts. That's how real change begins. Not by wishing for a better life, but by upgrading the way we think. And the easiest way to do that is to listen to someone who already embodies the mindset we want to grow into. And you probably may have heard of this famous quote that says, "You become what you listen to and who you listen to." So for 30 days, I decided to immerse myself in the mindset of Tony Robbins, who doesn't just teach personal development, but he lives and breathes it. And for those of you who don't know him yet, though I will be surprised if you don't, Tony Robbins is one of the world's most influential life coaches and motivational speakers. He has spent decades helping people overcome limitations, transform their lives, their mindset, and unlock their potential. And what I love about him is his intensity. His words aren't just theories. They come from lived experience and an unstoppable belief in human potential. And I chose him because his wisdom speaks directly to me. His mindset is the one I want to instill for myself, which is bold, disciplined, and focused on possibility rather than limitation. So for 30 days, I filled my mornings, my workouts, even the quiet moments of driving with his voice. And my goal wasn't just to listen to him, but to absorb his way of thinking and see what will that shift inside me. So here are the 4 shifts that I've noticed after listening to Tony Robbins for 30 days. At the beginning, when I first started listening to his podcast and videos, the first shift I noticed was in my mood. And I'll be honest, I struggle with mood swings a lot. Like sometimes in one moment I might feel up and ready to conquer the world, only to feel stuck and crushed in the next. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that Tony Robbins has this ability to flip my state in minutes. His energy is so contagious that it can make, I think, anyone see possibility where just a moment ago they only saw problems. So every morning, instead of reaching for my phone or scrolling mindlessly on social media, I'll go for a run and start my mornings with his words. And that changed completely how my day began. For me, hearing Tony's voice first thing in the morning was like a spark. His energy, his certainty, his conviction was so uplifting and empowering that there will be no way I will mess up that day. More than that, in one of his videos, I discovered one of his core morning practices, something he calls priming, which is basically about setting your mind and body in a peak state before the world takes over. For example, before diving into everything on your to-do list, Tony suggests to prime ourselves. And that takes only 10 minutes. Because let's be honest, if it were longer, most of us will say we don't have time for it, right? But I can't emphasize enough how much these 10 minutes changed in my life. Just a short 10 minutes priming practice each morning, and my days began to feel completely different. I felt lighter, more alive, and more intentional. My mood lifted, my energy shifted, but more importantly, I realized I was finally taking control of my life, of how I show up for myself, instead of letting the day or my emotions control me. So before sharing the next shift I noticed, let me explain really quick what this priming practice is all about. Of course, you can always search it out yourself, or I'll just attach the link down below so you can check it out. So priming starts with just 1 minute of fast breathing to wake up your body. And I have to tell you that it's wild how quickly it shifts your energy. After that, you do some gratitude. And this is my favorite part. So for the next 3 minutes, you focus on 3 things you're grateful for. And not just thinking about them, but actually feeling them. It could be your kid's smile, or a quiet morning coffee, or the warmth of the sun. And they don't have to be big. They have to be real. And when you breathe into that feeling, your whole state changes. And next, you spend a few minutes sending positive energy to your loved ones, imagining it flowing to them. It feels like a wave of compassion. And Tony even points out that focusing on this can literally change your brain. And finally, you pick 3 things you want to accomplish that day and imagine it as they've already happened. You see them, you feel them, you live them. And the crazy part, once you do this, your mind naturally starts looking for ways to make them happen. Now let's talk about the other shift I noticed after listening to Tony Robbins, which was in my focus. As a mom, wife, creator, and all the other roles I juggle every day, it used to feel impossible to stay focused. But more importantly, it was hard for me to focus on the things that really matter. And Tony says it best. We don't experience life. We experience the life we focus on. So it's our job to direct our focus. And that hit me hard. Because the truth is, we can't control everything that happens around us. But we can control what we pay attention to. So the real question then is, how do we do that? How do we train our minds to focus on what truly matters, instead of getting lost in distractions, endless tasks, and the noise of other people's agendas? And the answer to that question starts with knowing what really matters to you. What's your life purpose? What's the real reason you wake up every morning? What drives you? What lights you up? What genuinely makes you happy? Once you can clearly identify that, everything else starts falling into place. So when I figure out that my purpose is to change my life by becoming the best version of myself and to help others do the same, everything started to shift. I started making small but intentional choices about where to put my attention. Instead of spreading myself thin or getting caught up in distractions, I started focusing on the people, the projects, and the activities that actually move my life forward. Things that align on my purpose and bring me real fulfillment. And here is the best part. The more I practice it, the easier it became. My focus naturally sharpened, and suddenly even the chaos of everyday life felt more manageable. So in short, if it aligns with your purpose and it's within your control, that's where your focus should go. The third shift that I noticed was in my belief system. And if I'm honest, this one might have been the biggest changer of them all. Because here is the truth. Our beliefs shape everything. They determine what we think is possible, how we see ourselves, and even the actions we are willing to take. And before listening to Tony Robbins, I didn't even realize how many limiting beliefs I was carrying around. Thoughts like, I'm not consistent enough, I don't have what it takes, or other people are just more talented than me. And the thing about belief is, if you repeat them to yourself often enough, they become your reality. That's why Tony often says, the only thing that's keeping you from getting what you want is the story you keep telling yourself. And that hit me straight in the heart, because that made me realize that I was the one holding me back. Not the lack of time, not my circumstances, not even other people. It was this story I was telling myself, the story I was living in. So little by little, I started to question those stories. Every time a limiting belief came up, I asked myself, is this really true? Or is it just a story I've been carrying for too long? And most of the time, the answer was, it was just a story. And that's exactly what Tony teaches us. Change your story and change your life. And to do that, he says we first have to recognize our limiting story, the one that keeps us stuck, and then consistently choose to write a new one. A story that empowers us, motivates us, and drives us forward. A story that makes us feel determined, courageous, faithful. And part of that process is choosing what emotions will dominate our story and what role we decide to play in it. So I began writing my new story. Instead of repeating the same old line like, I'm not consistent enough or I don't have what it takes, I started telling myself, I can learn, I can grow, I can change, I can create. And here is the thing. Once you start believing something new, your actions naturally follow. You begin to show up differently. You take steps you once avoided. You dare to try things you normally wouldn't have dared before. And step by step, my life began to reflect that new story. Because let's all agree that the moment you change the story you tell yourself, you begin to change your entire life. And finally, the fourth and most powerful shift I noticed was in my emotional state, my sense of fulfillment, my overall happiness. For the longest time, I believed that happiness is a byproduct of my achievements, that I will only feel happy once I reach a certain goal or check things off my to-do list or got it right. But the truth is, that kind of happiness never lasts. It fades as quickly as the excitement does. And what I've learned from Tony Robbins is that happiness is not something we wait for. It's actually a skill, a daily practice. Yeah, you heard it right. Happiness is not something that just happens to us. It's something we create, something we actively cultivate, even when our life isn't perfect. As Tony always reminds us, we are in control of our emotional state. And that became a breakthrough for me, because it meant that no matter what's going around me, I have the power to control my emotional state. I don't have to wait for my life to be perfect to feel happy, to feel joy. I can choose it. I can practice it. And I can strengthen it like a muscle, so that when life brings stress, frustration, or doubt, I know how to bring myself back. For example, sometimes I might find a little dose of happiness in simple pleasures such as a quiet cup of coffee, a walk in nature, laughing with a friend, or just playing with my kids. Other times I might just immerse myself in my passion, like writing poems or self-reflections, even creating these videos. But of course, it can be any activity that makes you lose track of time and makes you feel alive and fully present. Also, another source of happiness, as Tony points out, is living with purpose. Because when we contribute to something bigger than ourselves, our life becomes richer, deeper, and more fulfilling. That's why I make sure every day I get involved in things that can create an impact and serve others. And that always, but always fills me with the profound sense of happiness. And if you really want to experience happiness at the highest level, then Tony suggests to nurture strong and meaningful relationships. Love the people you share your life with. Because as he says, nothing holds happiness together like the relationships you build. Nothing amplifies joy more than love. So I've learned to be more intentional about cherishing my connections, creating memories with my loved ones, and letting them know how much they mean to me. So Tony didn't just help me see happiness differently. He showed me how to practice it. And because of that, I now get to experience it more often in my daily life and share more of it with the people around me. So my biggest takeaway from this 30-day challenge is that we all have the power to create real change. Not by waiting for the life to get better, but by choosing better thoughts, better focus, better stories we tell ourselves, and practicing happiness daily. And if you're ready to start your own shift, I encourage you to find someone you deeply admire, whether that's Tony Robbins or another voice that speaks to your soul, and immerse yourself in their way of thinking for 30 days. I'm telling you, you will be amazed at how different your thinking and your life can feel in just a month. Also, I would love to hear what's one shift you would like to make in your own life starting today. Share it in the comments, because your story might inspire someone else. And if this video spoke to you, subscribe so we can keep walking this path together.